President John Dramani Mahama says that efforts must be made to arrest the financiers and kingpins behind illegal small-scale mining, also known as galamsey, and not just the boys in the pits. Addressing civil society organizations in Accra on Friday, October 3, President Mahama served notice to shipping lines that they will be penalized if they bring in excavators without permission.
The law actually says that you must get a permit before you import the excavator. And so now we're enforcing that law. And so you can't bring an excavator in, you can't put it on a ship, and we're telling the shipping agencies, if you bring an excavator for which there's no permit, we shall penalize you, the shipping agency, for carrying that excavator here to Ghana. What are we doing to the kingpins? Because most of those 1,400 who have been arrested are young youth who are looking for something to be able to look after themselves. And we'll prosecute them, we'll imprison them. But those who run those operations are the ones that we must be arresting and imprisoning, not these little boys.
Ashanti Regional Chairman of the New Patriotic Party, Bernard Enchibu-Esiakon, has been asked to report to Accra on Monday, October 6, for his charges to be read to him following the alleged involvement of his Akonta mining firm in illegal small-scale mining. The Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine, disclosed this during President Mahama's engagement with civil society organizations on tackling the illegal mining menace.
The charges against Chairman Wuntumi, Akonta Mining, and 5 others have been signed as I speak. Currently, we've asked that he should be brought from, Kumasi. His lawyers asked that he should be brought on Tuesday, but I'm insisting that he should be here on Monday. If he doesn't come on Monday, I'm going to order for his arrest so that he'll be brought to Accra. His rights will be read to him, and then we can start the prosecution.
To combat the rise in threat of illegal mining, the Ashanti Regional Minister Dr. Frank Amoakohene has mandated all metropolitan, municipal and district chief executives (MMDCs) to take direct ownership of the fight against galamsey in their jurisdiction. Speak journalists after a strategic meeting with local party executives, Dr. Amoakohene emphasized the unique position of MMDCs as community leaders.
These MDCs, forest and all these water bodies reside within their districts and their municipalities. We have charged them to lead the fight so that when there is a need for response, they are closer to the people and they are closer to the ground. They can respond accordingly.
The Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association (GRNMA) is giving government a 3-week ultimatum to provide a clear payment schedule for nurses who are still owed salary arrears. President of the GRNMA, Perpetual Oforiampofo, says the prolonged delay amounts to unfair labor practice and warns that if the issue isn't resolved soon, it could destabilize the currently calm health sector.
3,000 of them already have their inputs on the controller payroll system. And we have a number, about 3,500 of them, whose data have not been captured yet. So let's capture their data, and the Ministry of Finance should do the needful and get them paid, should find the resources and get them paid. And it's not just about paying them their monthly salary. We should not have a situation where their arrears are not paid in full. Their arrears must be paid in full.
The Director of Research and Corporate Affairs at the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC, Dr. Eric Obute, says stakeholder engagements are underway to determine the major tariffs on electricity, which will take effect come January 2026. This follows the Commission's announcement of a 1.14% increase in electricity tariffs effective October 1.
One of the factors which we consider is inflation. The other factor which we consider is the exchange rate. Now, the exchange rate that we used the last time in the third quarter was 10 cedi 70 pesos to the dollar. As we speak, the exchange rate that we are using is 12 cedi 37 pesos. So there's a shortfall in that already. So So even though we have seen a decline in the inflation rate, we have seen also a slight depreciation of the currency, whereby we use 10 cedis, 70 pesos as against this current tariff. Now we're using 12 cedis.
Well, gonna brief there for you. Let's get the show on the road now. Coming up, a crucial meeting to determine the best ways to tackle illegal mining in the country. We'll delve deeper into that right now. Now, President John Dramani Mahama says that efforts must be made to arrest the financiers and kingpins behind illegal small-scale mining, and not just the boys in the pit. Addressing civil society organizations in Accra on Friday, the president served notice to shipping lines that they will be penalized if they bring in excavators without permission. Take a listen.
Important successes is the change in the whole issue of excavators. Excavators came in huge quantities, and I remember that at a point under the previous administration, they asked that permits be gotten before excavators are imported. Meanwhile, the law did not say you should get a permit after, but that was what we came to meet, that you bring the excavator, then you go to the Ministry of Transport and ask for a permit. But the law actually says that you must get a permit before you import the excavator. And so now we're enforcing that law. And so you can't bring an excavator in, you can't put it on a ship, and we're telling the shipping agencies, if you bring an excavator for which there's no permit, we shall penalize you, the shipping agency, for carrying that excavator here to Ghana. What are we doing to the kingpins? Because most of those 1,400 who have been arrested are young youth who are looking for something to be able to look after themselves. And we'll prosecute them, we'll imprison them. But those who run those operations are the ones that we must be arresting and imprisoning, not these little boys. And so we need to change our strategy. We can arrest the boys and all that. And I think that even if we send them, they should be given a leaner sentence by the judge, a slap on the wrist. But those who must be given, there's no slap on the wrist. What's the least sentence? 15 years. 5 to 15. Yeah, so we'll catch these boys and we'll feed them for 5 years. Look after them for 5 years. And distract them. But like I'm saying, maybe we can look rather for the kingpins and deal with them in a major way so that we are able to get something on this whole thing.
Well, that was President John Dramani Mahama, that crucial meeting with the CSOs and religious bodies earlier today. Also at that meeting was the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine, who also spoke about moves the government is making to revoke the controversial LI 2462, which allows mining in forest reserves. Take a listen.
In time that the law, the position has to change. They have to go back to Parliament and then review the law, which makes it, politically more difficult. Also, we have prepared an instrument that is LI 2505 in my office, and that will be laid in Parliament on the 14th. The minister and I have agreed that on the 14th of October, when Parliament resumes, we'll lay that instrument to revoke the famous LI 2462, which is the infamous LI 2462, so that there will be no basis whatsoever for anybody to tamper with our forest. So immediately it is laid, within 21 days, it matures, and from that time onwards, we will not have LI 2462.
Now, here's an important part you should sit up for. The Attorney General also says that the state is proceeding with this case against NPP's Ashanti Regional Chairman Bernard Nchibwe, also known as Chairman Wuntumi. The NPP Regional Chair will report to Accra come Monday, October 6th, when his charges will be read to him for Akonta Mining's alleged involvement in illegal mining. Take a look.
In 2002, the police conducted very diligent investigations in respect of Akonta mining, but the docket was hidden until we came to power. In fact, when we came to power and I started the investigation with the the Lands and Natural Resources Minister and the Forestry Commission, we were finding it difficult to get information. Subsequently, the police conducted very diligent investigations in respect of Akonta mining, but the docket was hidden until we came to power. In fact, when we came to power and I started the investigation with the the Lands and Natural Resources Minister and the Forestry Commission, we were finding it difficult to get information. Subsequently, the police themselves owned up and presented the docket to my office 2 months ago. So as we speak, the charges against Chairman Wuntumi, Akonta Mining, and 5 others have been signed as I speak. Currently, we are waiting for him to be read his right to remain silent, etc. You know, before we've asked that he should be brought from, Kumasi. His lawyers asked that he should be brought on Tuesday, but I'm insisting that he should be here on Monday. If he doesn't come on Monday, I'm going to order for his arrest so that he'll be brought to Accra. His rights will be read to him, and then we can start the prosecution. We have also put in place certain measures to ensure that the prosecution goes faster than normal. We have approached the Chief Justice, who has agreed to assign specialized courts for the prosecution of illegal mining cases. And I have laid before Cabinet, on Tuesday, Cabinet will meet and approve the Public Tribunals Bill, which will go to Parliament on a certificate of agency. And if by December the tribunals are in place, most of the circuit tribunals will be given exclusive jurisdiction to deal with mining cases. And we will appoint the chairman and panel members of the tribunals, give them timelines beyond which they should not carry a case. So, for instance, we will insist that every mining case should end within 6 months. If there are reasons for you to appeal, that is fine. But the tribunal must deliver its verdict within 6 months. Currently, we don't have those statutory timelines in CI 47, that is the High Court Civil Procedure Rules. So I want Parliament to help me to put those timelines in the tribunals bill so that the tribunals will do the cases very fast. So, Mr. President, this is where we are in terms of the legal steps. And as I said, law enforcement, regulatory reform is at the heart of what we are doing. And we will not spare any person, you know, in terms of the accountability for their destruction of the environment. Thank you very much.
Also, that was the Attorney General, Dominic Ayine, also giving an update on the situation so far. So this is what they have done, you know, in response to the menace that is eating away our environment. Now, I do want us to also take a listen to the military that was there. We know that NIMO had pitched camp also at this meeting, very crucial meeting with government. The spokesperson there at the time made really important point for the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat. In case you're not conversant with the term at NIMO, they talked about really important steps that they are taking to curb illegal mining in the country. So let's take a listen to Colonel Dominic Bua, who is Director of Operations.
They should get ready and be assured that very soon our waters will turn blue and our forests will turn green. We have already trained over 400 troops who are the first batch deployed or under deployment to sensitive areas, will continue to deploy more so that we will all go to bed knowing that NIMOS is firmly on the ground and illegal mining will be a thing of the past. So all illegal miners, galamseyers, their financiers and assigns, beware. NIMOS is closer to your bases and there will be no hiding place for you. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much.
Well, Colonel Dominic Bois there, he's Director of Operation for NIMOS. My producer is here with me in the studio, and the reason he's here is to run us through some of the issues that have been raised by the CSOs, particularly the Coalition Against Illegal Mining. Would juxtapose that to, some of the efforts that were reiterated on the side of government, and find out whether or not there is any nexus between what government is doing so far and what these organizations, or the coalition at least, has been demanding, and what else is left to do. Right after that, we'll have a conversation on the back of security, so to speak, because again, NIMOS is a security arm of this fight. But, first things first, let's get into that statement from the coalition. Dennis, what has the coalition been saying?
Well, we all know that the coalition against galamsey has been very vocal on this particular matter. One of the key groups that have been calling for the declaration of a state of emergency as one of the ways that they believe can stop this whole menace of galamsey. So one of the key things which they demanded today as part of their contribution to this particular conversation was to the effect that they wanted to know what the defining benchmarks will be or will compel the president to invoke a state of emergency. This is on the back of the president's statement during his press encounter that as far as he's concerned, the time is not yet ripe for the declaration of a state of emergency. But of course, he reiterated that today in a different manner to say that he still has not got that advice, and that he is expecting, if an advice comes from the National Security Council to the effect that a state of emergency is needed, he will not hesitate in doing so. Except where we find ourselves now, the president says that the National Security Council believes that there are still other ways we can explore to get over this menace rather than a state of emergency. So in parts, really has been answered, because when you look at the question that they put to the president, or that is contained in that statement, it's specific that what are the defining benchmarks that will compel you to invoke a state of emergency, which you have termed your last resort. The president says that on the advice of the National Security Council, there are still other ways. This definitely will be the last resort. However, we are not there yet. However, the benchmarks, they want to know what exactly the president will be looking out for. The president says that as far as he's concerned, it has to take the advice of the National Security Council that we need a state of emergency to get this problem solved. The coalition also goes on to talk about other issues. They're also asking for some kind of protection for persons who, in their own small way, are activists or are fighting against the people who are trying so hard to mine in places where they are not supposed to mine, or to do things in a manner that isn't appropriate. So that is also one of the things that the coalition is also asking for. Indeed, they also wanted an update on some prosecutions, especially when it comes to cases that were identified or persons that were identified to be complicit in the Professor Frimpong Barton's report, including matters that were referred by the Attorney General to Iyoko to look into, and also they also wanted to know how politically exposed persons who were also named to have been involved in galamsey, how all of those things are faring.
Right.
And indeed, some of the sound clips that we have played already, including the one that the Learned Attorney General makes reference to cases involving Akonta Mining and Chairman Wuntumi, also seem to suggest that part of that question has been answered. So yes, this is a snapshot of the question that the CSOs or the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey is asking that what is the specific progress on prosecution in respect of persons in the Frimpong Boateng report, those referred to Iyoko by the Attorney General, and politically exposed persons previously mentioned. So at least the Attorney General has given an idea as to how exactly they are progressing, especially with matters that have to do with Akonta mining. Right. And then some other cases that he mentions that, I mean, there are quite a number of them. So that update, we also saw a bit of it. There was also the issue about a proposal for the state to confiscate and reclaim all lands affected by illegal mining and investigate chiefs for possible complicity. Now, this is two-pronged. Confiscate lands that are used for illegal mining for the state. As part of the government's 5-pillar approach to this matter, they talk about reclamation of lands and all that. It falls in that category. However, when it comes to investigating chiefs, what we heard was the fact that now the chiefs are going to be made a key element of the processes leading to the granting of concessions or the mining activities. So you'd hear the Attorney General talking about law reforms, which will include now allowing chiefs and community members to be the first people to make recommendations for the grant of licenses. So that would be a different aspect of it. But the coalition is saying that for all chiefs who are alleged to be involved in this matter, they should be investigated for possible complicity. Of course, they also indicate that there are other chiefs who are fighting so hard against Galamsey. Such chiefs should also be identified and commended. They also want the president to direct the interior minister to halt the influx of foreign nationals into gold mining communities and ensure their prosecution in accordance with our laws and not deportation. They are not in for that.
Right.
So generally, these were some of the things that the Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey went to the dialogue, if I may put it that way, on counter with the president, with just to help the conversation on illegal mining.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Dennis, for bringing us those. I know there are, a few more. Is there one more slide?
Not so when I made reference to the approach that the government also said they wanted to use to fight this Galamsey, they named it the 5-pillar. And these are the 5 pillars where they talk about stakeholder education and collaboration, which is ongoing. They say they are looking at regulatory reforms, which includes revocation of some licenses, reforms of the law itself, including amendments of the laws. Here, there's the revocation of that infamous LI 2462. Now, we understand that in the coming days, there will be a new LI which will be laid in Parliament on maturity. It will revoke that infamous LI. Strengthening of law enforcement agencies. Law enforcement. Yes, that has also come very strongly. They're also talking of reclaiming degraded lands and restoration of polluted water bodies. They talk about providing alternative and sustainable livelihoods. And that is because, in their view, a lot of the people engaged in illegal mining are doing so because they do not have work to do. And that's the reason they are in there.
Indeed. So, and in the course of that encounter, I hear the president talk about how the young people, the youth who are engaged in this, the people who go into these pits, should be treated with kid's glove, because then they will go after the financiers. They will go after the ringleaders, the kingpins who are sponsoring and endangering the lives of these young people as well. The coalition didn't sound happy about that.
Not at all.
Not the coalition, but the gathering of CSOs didn't sound happy about that.
That's why he seemed to suggest that a punishment could possibly be a slap
on the wrist.
They said no, there's no such thing as slap on the wrist.
Right.
The minimum. But the president's point was to the fact that if we put these people in jail, we are still spending money feeding them for a minimum of 5 years or so, as the gathering suggested to him.
Anyway, very, very tricky, isn't it?
Very.
Thank you so much for bringing us those details from that statement from the coalition, right? But let's stay on the subject and have a quick chat with security analyst Richard Kumado, who's joining us for... Richard, again, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate your patience with us. We've been running through this and bring in some sound clips here and there. But Richard, how useful was this meeting from where you sit?
Definitely, I suggestively recommended 5 things, and I saw 4 of them being done. The first thing I said was that the hesitancy of government to repeal the LI 2464 has fueled a lot of negative perception for government, and therefore the LI should be repealed. So I was happy when the Attorney General said by 14th October they are going to lay a new LI, whether it's 2501 or 2505. Then again, I also call for a dialogue with the CSOs, particularly the frontliners in the Galamsey fight. Then I also spoke about law enforcement effectiveness in terms of investigations and prosecutions. Then I spoke about public education, which has to be done predominantly by government and government agencies. So I saw some of these ones being outlined. Overall, I think the difficult question today, which was the elephant in the room, was not just the state of emergency, but as to how soon and how truthful the LI, the infamous LI 2464 will be repealed. And you remember a lady asked the question from Feeds the Country, the time lies between what was said in May and what was said in October. So that was the difficulties government had. And I think if they repeal the LI and people can see that some level of urgency has been attached, it will help. Then, of course, you remember that what the National Anti-Galamsey is doing, they are not just enforcing the laws or curtailing inappropriate mining. We did a research for the past 5 years in the area of illegal mining and inappropriate mining and the threat it poses to Ghana. Kemini, you'll be surprised to know that among the original 10 regions of this country, it's only 2 that you can confidently say there's no inappropriate mining. There's another 2 that you can have some level of minimal inappropriate mining, but you have about 6 of them with very aggressive inappropriate mining. And so that is why I can understand they hesitate in declaring the state of emergency. That also means that NADMOS, or the National Anti-Galamsey or Illegal Mining Agency, the security agencies, will have to carry the public interest along because it's a national security exercise. Communication is very key. If they are doing the job and the media is not aware, particularly the ones they have done to publicize it, then people are still going to have the anxiousness and the anxiety we have in the system. So that is what I want to add to what the effectiveness and the strengthening of law enforcement is going to be, particularly working closely between the military, the BNI, and the police in preparing the darkest, whether for the big fishes or the small fishes to be prosecuted.
Indeed. And Richard, I want to bring back NIMOS, Director of Operations, when he spoke, because, you know, when he spoke, there were a lot of applause, there were a lot of consent to some of the things that he was saying in many forms. Let's take a listen to Colonel Boa, and then I'll come back to you, Richard.
They should get ready and be assured that very soon our waters will turn blue and our forests will turn green. We have already trained over 400 troops who are the first batch deployed or under deployment to sensitive areas. We'll continue to deploy more so that we will all go to bed knowing that NIMOS is firmly on the ground and illegal mining will be a thing of the past. So all illegal miners, galamseyers, their financiers and assigns, beware. NIMOS is closer to your bases and there will be no hiding place for you. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much.
Richard, that assurance that Colonel Boa gives, is it realistic when he says that our waters will be blue soon, our forests will be green again soon? How realistic is this?
Definitely, now that the Minister of Lands has indicated, and he mentioned the 9 forests that has been declared as a security zone, together with the water bodies, if they put their house in order and they have a coordinated approach, and they have a centralized monitoring regime, then you can be sure that the media can go back to them and benchmark what they have done in terms of performance review. And we will look at it and see within a year or 6 months, what has been the levels of degradation of our forests and what has been the cleanliness of our water bodies. Reverse osmosis and carbon filtering caught my attention when the president spoke about it because I was exposed to it in one of the countries across the globe who want to clean up their water bodies. If all those things come in a streamline and Gold Board begin to put in the resources in helping the NADMOS in a fight against Galamsey and making sure that the green economy is back on its feet and the forest reserve can be protected, then you can be sure that some great things can be done. But Kemini, if you look at the 5 things that we have listed, we are talking about regulatory reforms, and we are talking about public education. We are talking about cleaning the water bodies and reclaiming the land. That falls under lands and natural resources, the EPA, and the Forestry Commission. That is not the work for security officers. So it's a shared responsibility. Now, when you are talking about prosecution, and the security officers have done what they're supposed to do, and they do not have the support from the justice system or the law court, then it wouldn't be the work of the security agencies. So I always tell people it's a shared responsibility. Security has a role to play. The police in particular and the BNI will have the ability in gathering the necessary evidence and putting the people before the court. And you heard Attorney General says that in one part of this country, people are giving bail, and now he has ordered that they should be brought to Accra. In terms of public education, we have the 48-hour rule, which says that all offenses should be bailable. But technically speaking, it is not true. It is the law enforcement agencies who determine which offenses should be bailable and which one within which timelines.
Right.
Other than that, non-punishable of offenses will always rationalize bad behavior and promote antisocial tendencies. And that is where we are with this inappropriate money that is killing everybody.
And then when you listen closely to Colonel Boa, he also reiterates the president's point that, look, we are going after the financiers, we are going after the kingpins and not the boys, not only the boys in the pit. How crucial is that to the fight?
No, I think that the operational word there should be not only the boys, because you can use the boys to get to who the kingpins are. And if the kingpins cannot find boys to go into those pits, it means that they run dry. And that is another way of them coming to the surface. And people will get to know them and law enforcement to go after them. And so it's 2 ways. We are not just going after the boys, or we should not just go after the boys, but we should go after the financiers. And that shouldn't be a difficult task for law enforcement, especially when you have the BNI and the CID block involved. Once they have their resources at their disposal, investigation is the core business they do. And these are guys I have known for the past 29 years, and I know their capability. Put them together, let them have their resources. They will feed the military with whoever they are. We only ask that once there are politically exposed persons involved, the Attorney General should be a bit more aggressive, and the Chief Justice should come to the aid of the state. Because once people can get away with the crime, they will recruit many more people involved. And this is not a fight the military cannot win or the law enforcement agencies cannot win. I trust them, and I think once we leave them to lead the fight, they will win it for all of us.
I see. Do you think that this meeting has put to rest the debate over whether or not to declare a state of emergency?
I think today I want to commend the Mr. President. Today he was a bit more relaxed. The last time, in his attempt to explain some of the things to the core, the media took him on, and that raises the levels of anxiousness. Today he was saying that I am the Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, but I take decisions from the National Security Council. And Kemini, you know my position on using intelligence in taking national decisions and the profitability it brings to the state. If the big brothers we have who sit at the Joint Intelligence Committee or who represent all of us at the National Security Council says to the president, declare the state of emergency, I want to believe that he will not hesitate in doing so. Now, once the state of emergency has not been declared, there are two things we can do, and we are doing one already. Declare certain strategic locations as a security zone and make sure the predominant activity there, it should be security activities. Any other activity should seek permission from the security officers. Then number two, act on the certificate of urgency that where criminals are arrested in that regard, they are speed up, and the tribunals must help in that regard. They are speed up and prosecutions is achieved. Other than that, once it delays, it wastes the time of everybody, and you need a little bit more energy and momentum to get it going. I think overall, they might be doing, or they are doing the right thing. 9 months will need to show strength, they will need to show presence, and they will need to carry the media along. And that is the only way to alleviate the fears of many of the people who are anxious and have anxiety about the risks of what we are talking about. The cost of illegal mining to the people in the food industry is very huge. Today, many food products are being restricted from entry certain markets because of many of the things we are talking about.
I mean, so essentially, right, after today, the calls for a state of emergency should end, right?
No, it should not end because you see, security management is a continuous process.
But I don't know if you watched it. The coalition, the civil society groups, they were all clapping there for the president. It means they are in agreement that the state of emergency should be the last resort. Who are they coming to tell again that the president should?
There were two things. There were two things that happened when the president spoke about slapping the young boys on the ribs, and he was asking how many.
I mean, there was a lot of consent with regards to the president's enumeration of the things that he was already doing. You can't go and give consent there by clapping and laughing and doing all that. And then when you step out of that meeting, you come and tell us we should pressure the president to declare a state of emergency again. If you agree to what he said by clapping and laughing.
Kemini, don't give them problem.
It's not mischievous.
When you watch it carefully, Kemini, when you watch it carefully, they disagree with the president, and the president asked the attorney general, and he said 5 years, and the president joked about it. But what the president said today,
I mean, that's just one instant. But I'll pause being mischievous, and then also say that unfortunately I've run out of time. We'll see how this conversation progresses.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time with us tonight. Richard Kumado is a security analyst. We've been looking at that all-important meeting between civil society groups and religious body together with the president that took place earlier today at the presidency. Let's move on to some other matters now. A boiling labor front, a government seeking patience, and a society that would suffer the brunt. Let me explain. I'll tell you more when we come back. Don't go away. Welcome back. It's still Ghana Tonight here on TV3 and on 92.7 FM. Tonight, government has 3 weeks to ponder how to pay salary arrears or risk escalation of the unrest among health workers. At least 6,000 unpaid nurses and midwives protested at the finance and health ministries to drum home their demands of unpaid salaries spanning 10 months. Now, some 7,000 nurses have already been paid, or rather added to the national payroll, leaving some 6,500. And of that number, 3,000 have been successfully captured on the Controller and Accountant General's Department. But the rest, that's where the problem is. Let's take a listen to the president of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, Perpetual Forian Pofu, make a strong case for the health workers.
So about 3,000 of them already have their inputs on the Controller payroll system. And we have a number, about 3,500 of them, whose data have not been captured yet. So let's capture their data, and the Ministry of Finance should do the needful and get them paid, should find the resources and get them paid. And it's not just about paying them their monthly salary. We should not have a situation where their arrears are not paid in full. Their arrears must be paid in full. If the arrears will be captured in the next budget, that is fine. The 2021 cohort of nurses, the 2022 cohort of nurses, 2023 cohort of nurses, 2024 cohort of nurses languishing at home, waiting for employment. If you put them all together, they should be somewhere around 80,000 plus, waiting to be employed. Beyond those who are waiting to be employed, we also have the rotation nurses who have actually, when you take the 2024-2025 batch, they finish their internship or rotation.
Well, the health minister has also been explaining why that is the case.
We inherited 13,500 of you being recruited without any financial provision. Now, as I speak to you now, when it comes to issues of salary, the Ministry of Health then collaborates with the Ministry of Finance. Now, out of the 13,500 people, more than 7,000 to 8,000 of them have been processed and they are receiving salary. 6,500 of you whose documentations are still being processed. I do not want to stand here and give you a timeline, say next week, and when it's not being fulfilled, it will be construed as we have also, disappointed you again.
Now, it's not just about the nurses. You also recall that the Junior Doctors Association have also issued a statement October 6th. If they do not hear from government regarding some 200 of their members, they will go on strike as well. We know that on the teacher front, a similar situation is happening. So essentially, there's a bit of unrest on the labor front, which is why we are having this conversation now. Austin Game is a former Deputy Labour Minister and also a Labour consultant. Is joining us with his perspective on these new developments. Mr. Game, why do you think that this is happening at this time?
Well, no surprise. I empathize, first of all, with all those who are seeking to gain employment into the formal sector of the government of Ghana's payroll. That is very fine, except that we all have to be very concerned about what is it that Ghana Health Service and the Ministry of Health, what do they require? What number, what optimum level can they go? It's very certain worldwide. You don't necessarily employ everybody that comes out from any school as such. You have to employ what you can afford to pay, the number you can carry with you. So yes, like the president of the nurses rightly said, fine, but what number optimum number.
I mean, Mr. Game, when you listen to the health minister, he says, look, we can absorb all of them. But of course, the money does not exist at this time because of the kind of economy that was inherited. The money does not exist to absorb all 80,000 of them, which is why they're working in batches and they're trying their best to pay off those who were employed just before they took office. But it would appear that that explanation no longer holds substance for the health workers. Is the government out of play here? Do they have any more cash to play from your experience at the Labour Ministry? What else could the government be doing? Mr. Game? Well, it would appear we have lost Mr. Game over the telephone. Let's take the opportunity now to take a listen to one of the health workers who had joined the protest to demand their unpaid salaries. Let's take a look at that.
We were initially 13,500. However, the ministry claims that 7,000 of us have been paid. However, for the 6,000 of us that has not yet been paid, we are told our financial clearance has expired. Now we know that a budget of 48,707,350. The finance minister, the current one, Mr. Atofos and Honorable.
We just heard from a protesting health worker. Mr. Game is back over the telephone. Mr. Game, I hope you heard my question, but I will summarize and ask it again. I was saying that the health minister has explained why they cannot absorb all 80,000 of them and why paying those who are already on the payroll is slow. My question is, having occupied the Labour Ministry before, what other card can the government play at this time just so that we don't have a collapse of the health sector?
Well, I appreciate that. They have to engage them. They have to call them and engage them. Let them be aware that there is optimum level beyond which government cannot go as an employer. But if you employ everybody and you cannot afford to pay, you will be even more in crisis than absorbing some of the people and not able to take on some.
All right. It would appear we're having challenges with that line again. But Mr. Game, I'm going to say a big thank you for staying up this late to talk to us. Austin Game is a former Deputy Labour Minister and a Labour consultant. He joined us to unpack developments on the Labour front. We'll continue to keep an eye on the story, see how it plays out over the next few days. Particularly keep a close eye on Monday, because that is when the junior doctors say if we do not hear for our members, we will go on strike. A few things to note as we go into the weekend. Tomorrow, 7 a.m., Alfred Okanse will be here with key points with, all his panelists to discuss the week's biggest story. Front and center of it will be the fight against Galamsey and that crucial meeting the CSOs had with the president at the Jubilee House. On Sunday at 1 p.m., I will bring you hot issues. It's not 1:30. I know last week I said 1:30. It's not 1:30. It's not 2 p.m. It is 1 p.m. now on TV3. My name is Kemini Amanor. I've got to go now. Right after I leave, there'll be a repeat of that engagement between the president and the civil society organizations. But that'll be it from me. Always grateful for your company. Good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint.